do.
This is the story of a mask. A cheap, stupid mask of a cartoon police officer and a blue flag, worn by some of the most vicious people still operating online today. It is the story of how a childish game of pretend police, born from the screaming chaos of YouTube comments, was corrupted into a sophisticated, ruthless digital cartel that preys upon the vulnerable, ruins lives, and operates with the grim efficiency of a modern organized crime syndicate. The story begins not with a master plan, but with boredom and a hunger for clout that curdled into something far darker. It is the definitive account of the Degeneracy Police Order State, DPOS, an organization that represents not the evolution of trolling, but its malignant transformation into something far more dangerous. The origin is almost laughably mundane. In the late 2010s, a loose collective of anonymous users congealed on YouTube. They called themselves the YouTube Troll Police, UTTP. There was no ideology, no grand purpose. Their entire reason for being was the dopamine hit of disruption. They would swarm comment sections, overwhelm live streams with spam, and post shock imagery, commonly known as gore, to provoke reactions. It was crude, juvenile, and psychologically simple. Their mascot, a crudely drawn cartoon police officer, was the perfect symbol, a parody of authority wielded by those who recognized no authority but their own desire for attention. For a time, that was all it was, a noisy, obnoxious, but largely containable digital nuisance. Within any system built on chaos, fault lines will appear. By the early 2020s, a profound schism fractured UTTP. This was not a simple disagreement over tactics, it was a divergence in purpose. One faction, the traditionalists, wanted to preserve the fun of the old ways, the raids, the spam, the juvenile humor. The other faction had grown desensitized to mere annoyance. They found the spectacle of online anger insufficient. They craved a deeper, more visceral result. They wanted fear. They wanted tangible proof that their words on a screen could warp reality, could inject panic into a living room hundreds of miles away. This faction was no longer satisfied with making someone log off. They wanted to make someone afraid to be in their own home. This insatiable hunger for real-world consequence led to the Great Split. Around 2023, this faction formally broke away, christening themselves the Degeneracy Police Order State, DPOS. They were not a new group springing from the ether. They were the cancerous offshoot of the old one, carrying forward the tools of trolling, but sharpening every single one into a weapon intended to draw blood. They retained the superficial iconography, the cartoon cop, the paramilitary organizational lingo, but these were no longer ironic costumes. They were now the uniform of a self-declared digital vigilante force, one that had written its own laws and appointed itself judge, jury, and executioner. From its very first operations, DPOS operated on an escalated tier. While old UTTP might post a target's username, DPOS operatives would spend days, even weeks, compiling comprehensive docs packs. These were not just screen names. They were full dossiers containing real names, home addresses, family member details, phone numbers, workplace information, and social security numbers, all meticulously gathered through phishing, social engineering, and data breaches. This was the first critical leap, from attacking an online persona to targeting the human being behind it. Concurrently, their use of violent imagery evolved. Gore was no longer random shock content tossed into a chat. It became a curated, weaponized library. Specific types of violent or traumatic imagery would be selected and deployed strategically against specific targets, often tailored to known phobias or past traumas in an effort to trigger psychological breakdowns. The most sinister escalation, however, was the normalization of swatting. What was once an extreme, rare stunt reserved for high-profile streamers became, under DPOS, a standard tool of intimidation. Calling in a fake hostage situation or bomb threat to send a SWAT team to a victim's door was not the endgame. It was often just the opening move, a demonstration of power meant to show the target that there was no safe space, not even their own living room. This triad of tactics, precision doxing, weaponized psychological media, and real-world harassment, marked DPOS's departure from its troll origins and its entry into the realm of systematic cyber-enabled abuse. To comprehend the final and most perilous metamorphosis of DPOS, one must understand the monstrous shadow that fell across it. That shadow is the network known as 764. To label 764 a troll group is a catastrophic understatement. It was a globe-spanning, satanic neo-Nazi criminal cult whose core business was the sexual exploitation and psychological destruction of minors. Their methodology was a chillingly effective blend of manipulation and coercion. Operatives, often posing as sympathetic friends or fellow outcasts, would infiltrate online spaces popular with teenagers, particularly Discord and Roblox. They would love-bomb a vulnerable target, showering them with affection, understanding, and a sense of belonging they may have lacked in their offline lives. This was the bait. Once a deep emotional dependency was established, the trap was sprung. The operatives would reveal their true nature, blackmailing the victim with secrets shared in confidence or coerce them into producing sexually explicit material. This compromising content then became the lever for sextortion, used to force the victim into ever more extreme acts, filming acts of self-harm, recruiting their own friends into the network, or, in the cult's darkest parlance, participating in culling, a term they used for pushing victims towards murder or suicide. This was not harassment, it was a factory farm for human suffering. The year 2023 saw a landmark coordinated global law enforcement strike against 764. From the United States to Europe, servers were seized, cryptocurrency wallets frozen, and dozens of arrests made. Key figures like Bradley Cadenhead were sentenced to decades in prison. The public breathlessly reported on the takedown of a dangerous online cult, believing the beast had been slain. This was a fatal misdiagnosis. Law enforcement had successfully dismantled the central command structure of 764, but they had not eradicated the ideology or the thousands of individuals indoctrinated in its methods. The Hydra had been decapitated, but its venom remained in the system. The surviving members, a diaspora of ideologically committed, tactically trained abusers, did not simply fade away. They went aground, searching for new hosts, new structures to infiltrate and commandeer. They found the perfect vector in groups like DPOS. These troll networks offered the ideal camouflage, scale. With thousands of disaffected, mostly teenage recruits, a pre-existing culture of chaos and amorality that could easily disguise darker activities, and a foundational hatred for societal norms that could be twisted into the 764 ideology of accelerationism and nihilistic violence. DPOS did not merely ally with 764 remnants, it was subsumed by them. The 764 cadres brought with them a professionalized playbook of psychological manipulation and coercive control, transforming DPOS from a group of hateful pranksters into a franchised outlet for a far more dangerous criminal enterprise. This unholy merger birthed the modern hybrid threat. DPOS could no longer be accurately described as an offshoot of UTTP. It had become a vehicle for the 764 methodology, hiding behind the increasingly thin veneer of the anti-degeneracy crusade. This public-facing narrative was a masterstroke of camouflage. It allowed DPOS to recruit a steady stream of new members, often angry, alienated young men, who genuinely believed they were joining a righteous war against moral decay. They were given a blue flag to wave and a cartoon cop to idolize, all while being slowly initiated into a private reality of absolute depravity. The overlap in tactics between post-2023 DPOS and classic 764 operations is not merely similar, it is diagnostic evidence of the merger. The playbook is now a refined, hybrid protocol executed with cold precision. Phase 1: Target acquisition and isolation. Targets are not chosen at random. Algorithms of victim preference are followed, prioritizing minors, LGBTQ+ individuals, neurodivergent persons, and content creators within vulnerable fandoms, often those centered around animation or LGBTQ+ themes. The goal is to find someone already isolated or struggling. The attack begins with either love bombing, a faux, intense friendship that provides the belonging the target craves, or its opposite, rage baiting, a coordinated campaign of minor insults and provocations designed to elicit an emotional public response that can be used to justify further escalation. The purpose is the same: to socially and psychologically isolate the target from their existing support networks. Phase 2, the packet and the psychological siege. Once isolated, the packet is delivered. This is the complete dox, a digital gut punch meant to instill a primal sense of vulnerability and exposure. "We know where you live" ceases to be a threat and becomes a statement of fact. This is immediately followed by the sustained psychological siege. Torrents of the most extreme gore and child sexual abuse material, CSAM, are unleashed across every platform the target uses. This is not scattershot shock content. It is a targeted bombardment meant to overwhelm the senses, induce trauma, and break down psychological defenses. The demand for proof or loyalty follows, a direct, unmistakable echo of 764's culling coercion. Victims are ordered to harm themselves on camera, produce new compromising material, or betray and target someone else in their community. The demand itself is a form of torture, placing the victim in an impossible bind. Phase 3, real-world escalation and coercive control. Resistance to the digital siege triggers the real-world module. This is where any last vestige of trolling is incinerated. Swatting is deployed as a calibrated instrument of terror. Pizza bombing, the mass ordering of delivery food to a victim's address or workplace, is used to inflict financial cost, social embarrassment, and professional jeopardy. False, malicious reports are filed with Child Protective Services, employers, licensing boards, and local police. In several documented cases, network members have been instructed to conduct physical reconnaissance, showing up at a target's home, school, or workplace to take photographs or film videos for further intimidation. Every single consequence, the flashing police lights, the confused pizza delivery driver, the frantic call from a boss, the knock on the door from social services, is meticulously documented. These moments of peak vulnerability are recorded, edited into highlight reels, and circulated in the network's private servers. They serve a dual purpose: as trophies celebrating the collective power of the group, and as recruitment videos to demonstrate to the next wave of recruits the terrifying efficacy of their methods. This cycle of record, share, recruit is the perpetual motion machine of the hybrid network's growth. This operational shift reveals the profound and terrifying core of the 764 influence. The strategic objective is no longer to provoke a reaction, but to achieve total submission. DPOS, in its hybrid form, does not want you to be angry, it wants to own you. To this end, operatives are trained in long-term infiltration. They will join an online community, a gaming guild, a support group, or a creative forum. They will be helpful, friendly, and engaged. They will seek and gain positions of trust, becoming a moderator, a guild officer, a confidant. This trust is not a goal, it is a resource to be mined. They gather leverage, intimate secrets shared in private chats, admissions of mental health struggles, hidden insecurities, private photographs shared in confidence. This archive of personal data becomes a weapon. The ultimatum is then delivered, often after months of grooming. Do what we say or everyone sees this. Send us this photo. Swat this person. Hurt yourself on stream. If you refuse, we will burn your life to the ground and stream the ashes. Their foundational mantra, repeated constantly in their channels, is "the cops will do nothing." This belief, that the transnational, asynchronous, and legally complex nature of their attacks places them beyond reach, is the bedrock of their audacity. This entire ecosystem thrives within a murky digital subculture often referred to as COM or LARPcore. It is a borderless online scene where extreme ideological role-playing, literally live-action role-playing or LARPing, perpetually flirts with and often collapses into genuine extremism. It is a space where teenagers and adults alike perform elaborate, edgy personas rooted in Nazism, Satanism, totalitarianism, and accelerationism, the belief that society must be violently pushed to collapse to be rebuilt. The constant refrain, when challenged, is "it's just a joke, it's just a LARP." This provides a powerful shield, allowing participants to engage in increasingly dangerous behavior under the pretense of irony, only to drop the pretense the moment it is strategically useful. DPOS is a central node within this COM landscape. Its most critical partnership is with a group called the Enclave, also known as UETR. The enclave functions as the hybrid network's dedicated shock media and cyber warfare division. While DPOS focuses on the surgical, interpersonal work of extortion and targeted harassment, the enclave specializes in mass, indiscriminate attacks. They maintain vast, organized archives of gore and CSAM, which they deploy in drops to flood and disable target servers or accounts. They operate botnets capable of launching devastating distributed denial of service, DDoS, attacks, rendering websites and online services inaccessible. This partnership exemplifies the military-like division of labor within the hybrid network. DPOS is the Special Forces unit conducting targeted raids, while the enclave is the artillery corps providing overwhelming firepower. Their collaboration is seamless and underscores a level of organization far beyond random, online malice. The human cost of this hybrid network is a litany of shattered lives, a toll that is both vast and intensely personal. This network was directly implicated in the campaign of relentless, personalized hate waged against a 17-year-old trans girl from Portland, Oregon. The playbook was executed in full. Her personal information was broadcast across dozens of platforms. She was subjected to barrages of transphobic slurs and imagery of violence against transgender people. She received constant, graphic instructions on how to kill herself. The psychological siege was unending, designed to extinguish hope. It succeeded. Her death was then celebrated within the network's private channels as a victory and a confirmed kill, proof of their power. She is not an isolated case. Countless others have been driven to the brink. Content creators like SillyPau have endured months-long campaigns where swatting calls, pizza bombs, and the weaponized spam of horrific content became a daily reality, all while the perpetrators taunted them from behind the cartoonish guise of the Degeneracy Police. The network's targets are left with PTSD, financial ruin, shattered reputations, and a fundamental, enduring fear of the online world. For every name that becomes public, there are dozens who suffer in silent terror, too afraid to report the abuse. Yet the mask is rotting, the once impenetrable veil of anonymity is fraying. The blue flag, a symbol they believed granted them impunity, has become a recognizable marker for investigators and platform moderators. The cartoon cop is no longer a shield, it is a brand burned into the evidence. The very technology they used to coordinate is being turned against them. Every swatting call leaves a telecommunication record. Every docs packet contains digital fingerprints, metadata in documents, unique phrases, stylistic patterns that link one attack to a broader web. Every boastful message, every trophy video shared in their supposedly private Discord servers or Telegram channels is a potential confession, a piece of a puzzle that is being solved in real time by a coalition of activists, ethical hackers, and law enforcement agencies who have learned to follow their trail. Their greatest weakness is their own hubris, the belief that the borderless nature of the internet makes them untouchable. In reality, it creates a vast, interconnected crime scene. The warning this story delivers is not a metaphor, it is a practical, urgent guide for survival in the modern digital landscape. To parents and guardians, the online worlds your children inhabit, Discord for conversation, Roblox for play, TikTok for community, are not virtual theme parks. They are unregulated public squares, and predators operate there with sophistication. Your duty extends beyond screen time limits. Engage with your child's digital life. Ask not just who are you talking to, but how do they make you feel? Do they ever ask you for pictures or secrets? Do they ever make you feel afraid or like you have to do things to stay in the group? Be profoundly wary of any community that defines itself by who it hates, that uses language of purity, cleansing, or patrolling, or that adopts mocking symbols of authority like a cartoon police badge. To friends, siblings, and peers, you are the first line of defense. If someone you know becomes withdrawn, secretive about their online activity, shows drastic mood swings after being online, or suddenly starts parroting extremist or nihilistic rhetoric they never used before, intervene. Reach out. Do not dismiss it as a phase. The process of radicalization and grooming is designed to sever ties with the old world. A single persistent thread of genuine connection can be a lifeline. To the platforms that host this ecosystem, Discord, Roblox, Telegram, Google, Cloudflare, the era of plausible deniability is over. The LAPA defense cannot continue to be a get-out-of-jail-free card. The coordinated use of your services to traffic CSAM, coordinate swatting, a potentially lethal crime, and execute sustained harassment campaigns must be met with not just reactive account bans, but proactive, intelligence-led countermeasures. Investment in trust and safety must be commensurate with the scale of the harm being enabled. This is no longer a story about internet trolls. That chapter is closed. This is the story of a digital cartel. It is an organized criminal operation that traffics in pain, recruits children as both its soldiers and its victims, and operates a profitable economy of extortion and intimidation, all while hiding behind the thinnest, most absurd of disguises. The cartoon cop is not a symbol of authority they parody. It is the flag of a piracy they perpetrate against human dignity. Do not mistake the childish costume for the nature of the creature wearing it. The creature has been seen. Its methods have been documented in exhaustive detail. Its networks are being mapped node by node. Its members are being identified, not as anonymous avatars, but as individuals with ISP accounts, payment histories, and social connections. The long, cold, and unglamorous process of accountability through platform bans, financial disruption, and criminal prosecution is already underway. The mask is off. All that remains is the reckoning.